Hey everybody, I'm Joe Killinger. I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur. And we put these videos together every week to give you all the tips and insights from my experience over the last several years. So make sure you tune in and subscribe, and thank you. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. We're in the middle of working with our property management company over the last few days, and we've been getting a lot of conversations between property owners and tenants, be it on the multifamily side or even the office and retail side. So we've been running into some situations that I think would be good for everybody to know about and really consider as you're looking at restructuring your lease, because it can in fact affect the landlord as well as the tenant. So for this, I asked George Pino, you've seen him on, he's the CEO of Commercial Brokers International in Los Angeles, asked him to jump in the video with me here to really make sure we have a clear breakdown of how it can affect the landlord as well as how it can affect the tenant. So George, if I'm a tenant and I come to you and I say, hey, I need 3 months of free rent or discount rent for 3 months, that I'll make whole after that. You know, there's a good chance that could affect my loan, correct? In some cases? Not all cases.
In some cases, absolutely. I think there's issues that you have to take a look at, especially when it comes to credit tenants. So, because a lot of times the lenders utilize the creditworthiness of the tenant themselves to underwrite the loan, and your part of the loan agreement and loan documents may forbid you from lease modifications without the lender's approval. So you can, in this market, you can probably get away with it. I don't think any lenders are going to necessarily come after them.
Probably,
but at the same time, it's always better to be safe.
Read your documentation.
Then yes, and read the documentation. Know what you can and are authorized to do prior to actually doing it. Right. More importantly, I think that the tenant potentially can really expose themselves for some issues.
Yeah, could you walk us through that as well, please?
Absolutely. So almost always when a landlord gets a loan, or when there's a new loan on a property, there's what's called an SNDA, which is a subordination non-disturbance agreement. And you know, essentially the tenant and the landlord sign that. Or not the landlord, the tenant and the lender sign that, and it's an agreement between the lender and the tenant, and it basically states that the tenant's leases are subordinate to the loan.
Right.
And in addition to that, they attach the terms of the lease and to that as well, and there shouldn't be any modifications, or it may invalidate that. Now, in exchange for the subordination, the lender also agrees that in case the property is foreclosed upon, or there's a event where the landlord may have defaulted and they have to take it back, or it's just turned over to them as a deed in lieu of foreclosure, that the lender will allow the tenant's rights on the lease to remain in place. That's the non-disturbance part. Right. So the issue that arises is if you modify the lease without lender approval, it may invalidate the SNDA, in which case the tenant doesn't have any protections in case of the landlord being foreclosed upon or turning the property over, which we saw a lot of during the earthquake back in 94 Los Angeles.
Way too young to know about that, but no, it's a very good point. It really can affect the tenants. So it'll make sure that you do check all your documentation, read it. If you're a landlord, you're a tenant, know what you're getting into. It's not so simple as just to call your landlord and say, hey, I need this discount, or I need to move this, let's extend the lease. It's not that simple. There's a lot of moving parts here, so if you haven't started, you need to get started on it right away. So George, thank you for coming in today, and or coming over actually, and thank you for tuning in, and if you haven't done so, please do subscribe to, we'll be putting these out every week. Thank you.